Welcome to the collection of the wildest and craziest AITA Reddit stories of all time. From wild betrayals to shocking twists, these tales will leave you questioning who is really in the wrong. Let's dive in together. The first story for this collection is from Glittering-Mail-117. AITA for getting my unfaithful ex-husband beaten up and forcing him to pay child support. I'm 33 and have 2 kids, 12 and 8. I divorced their dad when I discovered he was cheating on me with a mom from our younger son's school group. Despite that betrayal, I agreed to shared custody because I wanted my kids to grow up with their father in their lives. However, since the divorce, he's only been around when he's picking them up for visits. He often goes out with his stepchildren, but rarely includes our kids, claiming those outings are spur of the moment and can't always include them. Eventually, I stopped pushing, but I've always thought it was unfair that he keeps his distance from our children's lives. Recently, I decided to upgrade my older son's computer, and he asked if we could give his old one to his cousin, my brother's son. My brother has been a huge support for my kids. He's always available to take them to their school events when I can't, and often takes them out to the park or for trips when I'm busy. My ex, on the other hand, is rarely available for them. Anytime I ask him to help with an activity, he has an excuse he's out of town or swamped with work. Ironically though, whenever his stepkids need something, he's there. Once, he even argued with the stepkid's father at a school event, insisting he had the right to be there. When my ex found out I gave the computer to my nephew, he got upset. He complained that if I had money to spare on a gift like that, I should have forgiven 2 months of child support he'd missed, since his finances were tight with a new baby. He added that if I could give away a computer, I should have gifted it to either his kids or his stepkids, who shared just one computer among the 3 of them. I told him my finances were none of his business and that I owed nothing to his stepchildren. Then his wife jumped into the conversation, accusing me of spoiling my son by giving him a new computer and of being petty for letting my son bring it to their house, claiming it was just to show off in front of his step-siblings. I told her she had no right to speak to me that way or question my decisions. I added that I allow my kids to see their father so they can grow up with him in their lives, not so she can interfere with how I parent. My ex was offended, but I told him this whole situation could have been avoided if his wife hadn't inserted herself where she doesn't belong. After that, things seemed to calm down until last week. I went to pick up the kids, and my ex was visibly upset. He explained that he'd tried reading a bedtime story to our youngest. At home, he still likes to be read to before bed, usually by me, his brother, or my brother. And when none of us are around, he listens to audiobooks. Apparently, my ex wanted to make an effort to connect, so he offered to read to him, but our son turned him down, saying he didn't need him for that because he could do it himself. My ex stayed to listen, as he searched for a story for 8-year-olds without a dad on his tablet, and it hit him hard. The next day, my ex offered to take our older son to basketball practice, but he replied that he'd be going with his dad. He quickly corrected himself and said, "Uncle." That made my ex even angrier, and when I came to pick up the kids, he confronted me about it. I told him that if our kids feel like they don't have a father, he has only himself to blame. He tried to shift the blame onto me, saying I was the one pushing him away from his role. I told him it's up to him to show up for his kids, not something I can do for him. I reminded him he was the one who broke our family, and he's chosen to be more involved with his stepkids than with his own children. I told him not to kid himself. The kids are growing up, and they're starting to see the reality of who he is as a father. If he keeps this up, he can't expect much from them in the future. After that exchange, his mom called me. While she's always been polite to me, I felt the need to say that I would have appreciated this same concern from her when she supported her son's affair, knowing her grandchildren were losing their father in the process. She hung up, and we haven't spoken since. My brother advised me that I had every right to express how I feel, but he suggested that maybe this discussion shouldn't have happened in front of the kids. Later, my ex texted me saying that if I weren't so difficult, he'd spend more time with them. I told him his duty as a father doesn't depend on whether I'm easy or not, and he knows I've never prevented him from seeing the kids. The truth is, when he has to choose, he prefers outings with his stepkids over his own children, and that's something only he can change. Update. Part 1. These past days have been a bit unusual. First, I want to thank all of you. I didn't expect to receive so much advice, and I never thought this app would be so useful. It's not very popular in my country. Now, back to the topic. My ex sent me messages saying he wanted to resolve things, stop arguing, and talk to me. I agreed. He came to my house, and we didn't beat around the bush, we went straight to the point. He asked me if I really thought he was a bad father. I replied that looking back now, I never would have chosen him to be the father of my children. He said it wasn't easy for him, and I answered that it wasn't easy for me either, because I take on both his role and mine. He told me he couldn't leave his stepchildren without a father, because he had already broken their family, and I replied that he had left his own children without a father. He started crying and told me it was my fault, saying that when the infidelity happened, I refused to forgive him or go to couples therapy. I kept telling him things I'll admit they weren't kind, but none of them were lies. He asked me if, given his current state, I didn't feel sorry for him, and I said no. He told me he didn't think I could be so cruel, and I replied that when I changed jobs, pulled my kids out of school 2 months before the end of the term, moved houses, and watched him disappoint our kids over and over again, any empathy I might have felt turned into apathy. He left after that. His mother called me and said she knew what I had told her son, that he hadn't stopped crying, and that she didn't understand how I could carry so much hatred to hurt her son like that. She said I should just get over it. I answered, with all due respect, what I said wasn't out of hatred but out of truth. If your son is crying, it's because he's finally facing the consequences of his actions. Maybe instead of worrying about how he feels now, you should have taught him to take responsibility and treat people with respect. She said I didn't know what it was like to feel a mother's love and see a child suffer. And I replied that I did understand, because I have 2 children who cry over a living father. 2 children who see their dad being a father to other kids when he doesn't have time to be their father. She said he was sorry, and I told her not to put words in his mouth and to stop calling me about anything related to her son. I hung up. I wanted to cry so badly, but I'm a damned mother, and I don't have time for that. I want my kids to feel safe, loved, and strong enough not to need anyone, not even me, to be themselves. Last Thursday, I took my kids to their cousin's birthday party, hosted by my ex-sister-in-law. I still have a good relationship with her. She was the one who told me about the infidelity and that her mother was already encouraging it. My ex showed up alone and irritated. My kids kept their distance from him. They kissed his hand, but then ignored him completely. My ex-mother-in-law told the kids they should show more respect to their father, and my eldest replied that he doesn't show respect for me since he and his partner talk badly about me. I scolded my son, not for what he said, but for how he addressed his grandmother. I told him it was wrong to eavesdrop on private conversations and repeat them. Then I asked him to gather his things because we were leaving. My ex-mother-in-law asked me not to leave, saying the kids were having fun and we could resolve this as adults. She asked my ex what he had said, and he claimed not to remember. I told her I didn't care, and she said we should be good parents. I replied that to be good parents, you need to be good people first. My ex was getting agitated. My ex-mother-in-law asked why we couldn't have a civilized co-parenting relationship. I told her everything I've mentioned here about his free will to see the kids and how the second custody agreement isn't working since he only sees them some weekends. My ex didn't want to discuss it, saying he had too many kids at home. My ex-mother-in-law told him the only kids who should feel comfortable are his, and the comfort of the others should be provided by their biological father. My ex wanted to end the conversation because his mother was scolding him for being a careless father. He also said it was my fault. I asked him to clarify how it was my fault. You can see the kids whenever you want. What more do you want? He started yelling, claiming I was only being petty because I didn't really need the money since I earned more than him and had fewer kids to feed. I told him I wouldn't continue the conversation and that I'd show him what being uncivilized looks like by filing for the overdue child support payments. His mother asked what I meant by overdue payments. I explained that he was 3 months behind. She was furious, slapped him, and demanded to know what he had done with the money for his children. He answered, I couldn't let JR miss out on attending the same school as my son. I didn't want him to feel inferior. My ex-mother-in-law said she couldn't believe it, and they started arguing. I left. Yet for context, my youngest son attends a private school, and my ex pays for his stepson to attend the same school. Yesterday, my ex-mother-in-law came over and said she would pay the overdue fees. She brought the money in cash. I knew my ex would be furious. Here's some context. My ex-mother-in-law doesn't work, doesn't own anything herself, and lives with my ex-sister-in-law. However, she does have significant savings from her inheritance. If she pays the tuition, my ex knows there won't be much left for him when she passes, even though she's still healthy. He's been asking her for years to invest some of that money in his business ideas, but she's always refused. My ex's retaliation was not picking up the kids this weekend. Yesterday, my ex-sister-in-law called me. She doesn't know all the details yet, but apparently, my ex's 15-year-old stepson punched him in the mouth. She said she'll let me know exactly what happened once she finds out. And before anyone asks, the new custody agreement will likely take a year to finalize. The court says the overdue payments are the priority, and the rest can wait. We have more urgent cases. OP is not an AH for standing up for her kids. Her ex-husband is an AH for ruining his relationship with their kids. OP did nothing wrong, and her reaction is completely justified. So I would rate OP's ex-husband 2 out of 5 and OP 0 on the AH scale. Let's now jump on to the next story from Saltfall 5312. AITA for refusing to cook Thanksgiving lunch after 15 years. For the past 15 years, I, 38F, have been the one cooking Thanksgiving lunch, or at least the turkey and most of the food. It's been a tradition, but this year, I'm completely burnt out. I'm a teacher with 4 kids, ages 2, 15. And this year has been especially stressful with work, parenting, and school. I just don't have the energy to take on such a big responsibility again. I suggested that my sister-in-law, SEL1, who just moved into a new house, should maybe host this year and could make the turkey. She's a stay-at-home mom with 1 child, 11 months old, so I thought it wouldn't be too much to ask. My mother-in-law immediately shut that idea down, saying SEL1 is unreliable and might not wake up early enough to make it. I then suggested my brother-in-law's wife could also take on the responsibility. They got married this summer, but have been together for over 5 years. She's never cooked a turkey before, but my mother-in-law said, "The turkey cooks itself, so I don't see why she can't give it a try." Everyone else shows up to eat every year without lifting a finger, but when I suggest not cooking this year, it's suddenly a crisis. When I told my husband I wasn't cooking, he said I'm just resentful because his parents helped SEL1 buy her house. That's not true. I even suggested SIL2 could make the turkey. Then he brought up that I'm mad because every time we have a date night, his parents tell my older daughter, who babysits her siblings, that we're neglecting our responsibilities as parents. I pointed out how unfair that is, but he just said, "We're the most stable, so that's why we're always asked to take on more." My husband thinks my decision not to cook has less to do with stress and more to do with his family. He said, "I only decided not to cook after my mom said she wouldn't be coming over. My mom has been battling breast cancer for the past 10 months and just wants to stay home this year and avoid being around so many people. Last year, my parents spent Thanksgiving with my sister, who couldn't travel, but I still cooked for his family. In the past, I hosted Thanksgiving at our house because my family and siblings were coming over, but I've still made the turkey for his family for the last 15 years. Even the years we hosted for only his side. So, the idea that I'm refusing because it's his family isn't true. My husband also said I have 5 days to rest before Thanksgiving and doesn't understand why I can't just cook the turkey. I explained I don't want the responsibility of waking up early, making the turkey, and dealing with everyone asking me, "Is it almost done?" For once, I just want to show up, sit down, and eat like everyone else does. He threw in that I've been hosting Thanksgiving for the last 7 years, which I pointed out is exactly why I'm tired. When I told him I didn't want to do it, he accused me of neglecting my motherly duties, which really hurt. Why should I always be expected to take on the stress of cooking when others don't have to because they can't or don't want to? Well, I don't want to this year either. AITA for refusing to cook this year? Thanks to everyone who weighed in on my original post. I was overwhelmed with the response as this is my first time posting. After a lot of back and forth with my husband, here's where things stand. I told him that for lunch the kids and I would be going over to my mom's house. She's recovering from breast cancer and just wants a quiet day, so I want to spend time with her. I told my husband he was welcome to join us or not, his choice. He asked if I could meet him halfway by popping the turkey in the oven before leaving for my mom's so his family could eat at 3. I said no, but I'd be willing to cook the turkey if dinner was pushed to 6, giving me more time to prepare on my terms. He said that was too late. He then suggested his mom could cook the sides, and I'd just handle the turkey. Again, I said I'd only do it if dinner was moved to 6. When he refused, I stood firm and said no. I want to bring something easy this year, like sodas and desserts, just like everyone else gets to do. I'm tired of being the one responsible for the main dish when others can step up. For context, we live next door to his parents and his sister, so the constant expectations from his family are exhausting. My husband and I share the household responsibilities equally. He does all the daily cleaning, even when we aren't hosting, and we both handle the kids' baths, school drop-offs, and pickups. I'm not complaining about him at all. The issue is with his family. His family keeps insisting the others can't cook or host because they're incompetent. But the real problem is that my in-laws coddle them and never let them take responsibility for anything. That's not my problem to solve. I just want a break from being the one carrying the load every year. I'm sticking to my boundaries. If they think no one else is capable of cooking, then they can deal with the consequences. Not me. Also, I had said since last month that I didn't want to host or cook, so this is not new information to his family. OP is not an AH for refusing to cook for the Thanksgiving. Rather, her mother-in-law is an AH for calling OP irresponsible and neglecting her 15 years of efforts. OP's husband is also an AH for not supporting her in this situation. So, I would rate OP's husband 2, OP's mother-in-law 1.5, and OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now move on to the next story from an unknown user. AITA for refusing to forgive my ex-best friend and other friends even after 6 years later? I, 28F, used to be best friends with Anna, 28F, since high school. She was popular and outgoing, while I was the introverted, nerdy friend. In high school, I had a crush on Ethan, 28M, but I assumed he'd prefer Anna, so I stayed out of it. They started dating, and I supported her with reluctance because of their toxic, on-and-off relationship. Over time, I grew to dislike Ethan because he was rude and mean. They broke up when we were 21, but got back together with him a year later and eventually got engaged at 23. 3 months before the wedding, Ethan drunkenly called me, asking why I rejected him. I dismissed him and said he was drunk and ended the call. The very next day, I was kicked out of group chats and ghosted by everyone else in our friend circle. When I texted my friends to ask what happened, they gave me the silent treatment. When I reached out to Anna, I found myself blocked. Desperate, I even tried calling Ethan, but my number was blocked too. I had no idea what I'd done wrong, and I wished anyone would tell me. That week was hell. Anna's silence hurt the most because, at the time, she meant everything to me. I barely slept, battling panic attacks at night while trying to keep it together for class during the day. If not for my supportive roommates who helped me through my panic attacks, I don't know how I would have made it through. Anna and I attended the same local university, but took different courses. I waited for her outside her class. When she came out with her friends, I pulled her aside and asked what was going on. She accused me of being a fake friend who tried to steal Ethan. I denied her accusation and asked for proof, but she went silent and left. They didn't unfriend me on Facebook, but kept posting about their hangouts and the bridal shower, along with indirect jabs at me. I eventually deleted my old account and changed my number. I slowly rebuilt my self-esteem and moved on. I recently created a new Facebook account. A few days ago, I was added to a group chat for our upcoming reunion, which I had no idea about. They greeted me, calling me class president, as if they hadn't shunned me 6 years ago. I left the group, but they messaging me. Anna kept calling, so I finally picked up out of annoyance. She told me that she was sorry for everything and wished for me to come to the class reunion party. The party didn't seem to be complete without the class president every year. She told me that she divorced Ethan after 2 years of marriage. She tried to reach out to me but couldn't find any of my socials or contact info after we graduated. I asked her why she was telling me all this when she was not important to me anymore. She cried. I ended the call and continued ignoring their messages on Messenger. My family says forgiveness is for my own peace, and that it doesn't mean forgetting. But I don't feel anything anymore, only indifference. I don't owe them anything to ease their guilt. So, AITA? Update. I wanted to edit my previous post, but it's already too long. Just a quick disclaimer. I created my Facebook account 2 weeks ago after mustering the courage from my past trauma. I used fake names and ages for anonymity. In reality, we're all 29. My friendship with Anna fell apart when I was 23, and now, 6 years later, we're 29. I know no one has noticed this so far, but I just wanted to clarify. Some people from my previous post suggested that I reach out to Ethan. However, before I could do so, he reached out to me first. Yesterday, I received a friend request from him, along with a message saying hi in my messenger. So, we talked. He invited me for a coffee this weekend so we can talk about it. I told him to not push his luck and just answer me. I asked him about his call that night. Since most boys were too intimidated to approach me, they often asked Anna to convey their feelings to me. Ethan was one of them. Apparently, a lot of boys had a crush on me back then. But at the time, only Anna received open confessions, so I assumed I was undesirable, not that it mattered to me. I was foolishly infatuated with Anna, so much so that I would have rolled out a red carpet for her to walk on if I could. She was my entire world back then. Not even once have I ever heard about any boys in high school liking me from Anna. Apparently, Anna would always come back to them with her apologetic face, telling them that I had rejected them and repeating the insults I had supposedly said about them. No wonder some people back in high school called me arrogant and disliked me for some reason. I just thought it was because I was a strict class president and student committee member. Unlike Anna, who was friendly and charming, I was strict, sharp-tongued, and rarely smile. I don't owe anyone a smile. Ethan explained that he was mean to me back then because Anna told him I had said he was an orphan abandoned by his parents. This was a particularly sensitive topic for him, as he had been raised by his grandparents since childhood. He later discovered the truth when Anna inadvertently admitted it during an argument. That moment led him to file for divorce. Ethan shared that he genuinely did love Anna, but her constant insecurity and habit of bringing up my name in every argument strained their relationship. She either accused Ethan of still thinking about me or compared him to me. Anna did find out about Ethan's drunken call that very same night. They had an argument, and Ethan came close to calling off the wedding, but Anna guilt-tripped him into staying. Neither Ethan nor Anna lied or twisted the story. Anna simply told our entire friend group to stop talking to me. They knew I hadn't done anything wrong, but somehow it was still my fault that Ethan had unresolved feelings towards me. I was, and still am, an introvert, and most of my friends back then were hers. It wasn't surprising that they followed her lead when she turned against me. They were always her friends, not mine. Anna and my ex-classmates then painted me as a villain to the other friends from high school. Ethan didn't do anything to help me because he was manipulated to hate me. His words, not mine. That's why I changed my number and deleted all my social media accounts. While no one directly bombarded me with mean messages, I constantly saw posts that seemed to be aimed at me, even though my name was never mentioned. Ethan only revealed everything to the other friends after his divorce with Anna was finalized. Now, Anna and my ex-classmates are the ones being shunned by the others for 2 years ago. Ethan said he owed me an apology, though he knew it wouldn't be enough after everything that happened. While he never smeared my name, he stood on the sidelines and did nothing simply because I rejected him and called him an abandoned orphan during high school. He asked me if I will be going to the upcoming reunion party. Turns out the reunion party this time was for the 1995 high school batch. My ex-classmates probably wanted their former class president to attend for appearances. I told him I won't go. He said I can sit with him and his ex-classmates if I wanted to. Why would I? Brother you. I told him I wouldn't be attending because I have no friends from high school. He mentioned that the others would be sad if they heard I said that. Well, screw them. I received a lot more messages from old friends, but I didn't respond to any of them. I have no attachment towards them. I told Anna that Ethan already told me everything. She called me on Messenger again, sobbing. She admitted she might have been a terrible friend, but that she did care about me. All those years, I was always on her mind. I was too attached to her back then because she was my first real friend, as I had no friends in middle school. I was too shy and quiet, so I couldn't make friends. Anna taught me how to make friends and overcome my social anxiety and introduce a lot of people to me. I learned to cook for her and took care of her when she was sick. I even protected her from creeps. Everything I did was for her. Now that I think about it, it was kind of unhealthy. Maybe she wanted me to be that version of myself again, only for her convenience. She begged me to try again, that she would be a better person for me, but I just ended the call and blocked her. After a few minutes of contemplating, I decided to delete my Facebook account again. I have a feeling that if I didn't, they will keep on bothering me. I'll settle with a fake account. The main reason why I made my Facebook account is to play Harvest Town anyway. OP is not an AH for prioritizing her mental peace. Her reaction is 100% justified for not forgiving her friend after being betrayed. OP's friend is an AH for accusing her. So I would rate OP's friend 2.5 out of 5, and OP gets a 0. Let's now jump onto the next story from Burner 4 AITA 69420. AITA for telling my GF that her privates smell sometimes. I, 32M, my GF, 30F, have been together for a little over a year. I had noticed a smell from time to time when we're being lazy around one of our apartments, but I couldn't place what it was. It happened at both places, so figured it was just her hair product or something. The smell isn't disgusting or anything, but it can be unpleasant at times. Not enough that you want to get away from the area, but enough it'll make you think, God, I wish this would go away. The way I found out where it was coming from was using the restroom after her. It was a very unpleasant day. We had just been very active all weekend, and showers were more of a quick rinse-off instead of a proper shower. We were hiking and camping at a state park, and being a little dirty just comes with the territory of camping. On the drive home, I noticed it in the car, and when we got home, she used the restroom first, and I asked to use it after her before she showered. When I went into the restroom, the smell just hit me like a sack of bricks. All she had done was pee, and the smell was so amplified from that there was no mistaking it was vaginal. I came out like nothing happened and let her shower, thinking maybe if she smelled it again after some fresh air in the other room, it might trigger her to clean her area better. It didn't do much, so she smelled blind to it. After her shower, I go in and shower, and the smell are mostly gone, but faintly there mixed with soup fragrances and such. I take my shower and come out to finish unpacking, and we start talking about what we want for dinner. She's in comfy clothes, just a big shirt and some looser-fitting yoga pants, and I don't notice anything at first. We order pizza, and she takes her pants off to snuggle up under a blanket. When she gets up to grab a drink later, after maybe an hour under the blanket, the smell pours out from underneath the blanket. At this point, I'm at a loss for words and don't know how to bring it up delicately and don't want to be rude or anything. She's a very clean person, takes care of her hair, does the face routine stuff. Her hands never have dirt, clothes are always clean, apartment is spotless, and she picks my place up too when I let it get a little grungy, so she's very clean, and I don't know how this slipped past her. Fast forward about 3 days and life is as usual, and she says, I think I'm starting my period soon to me when I met her apt one night, and I figure this is me in to mention it under the veil of hormones maybe? So I reply, yeah, I think you are too, somewhat vague. She gets a kind of, what? Look on her face, and I immediately knew that was a dumb play on my part. So I say back, well, sometimes when you're near your period, I can tell because you have a different scent, kind of. It's not bad. I can just tell. Can't explain it really. And she kind of spazzes out a little, asking me to explain more. So I started beating around the bush. Haha. And alluding to it being that I can smell her vagina because of her hormones without explicitly saying that. It results in a short-lived argument, and we don't really come to a resolution, and are kind of just distant for a couple hours before I end up heading home to take care of my dog. As a few days pass and she's back off her period, we got to have again, and I can smell it a tiny bit, but it's not terrible at all, so I figure maybe she is taking extra care of that area. Well, during and after, it's the only thing dominating my mind, cause the smell is so abundant. At this point, I'm not sure if I'm constructing it to be a bigger issue in my mind, or noticing it more than it is really there because I became fixated on it or something. After we clean up from and are going about our normal rest of the night, I more bluntly bring it up. I started with, "Hey, there's something I want to talk to you about." And she asked, "What is it?" And I preamble with all the delicate, "I know this is a sensitive issue" type stuff. And then I just told her, "Sometimes your has a smell to it that is pretty strong. I notice it at home when you're not wearing panties pretty regularly." And she flipped out on me. I asked her to go see an OBGYN about it, or if she could tend that area better, because maybe it's just an overactive gland or something. I have no idea, I'm just spitballing suggestions, and I'm a fish out of water at this point. We get into a huge heated argument, and I ask if there's anything I can do with my area that she would like in return, or even my appearance, like shave my beard or anything. And I say I'm worried it could be a health issue that she needs to have addressed, but she needs a professional opinion on. She keeps saying it's natural and she doesn't smell anything, and I'm making her feel like she's disgusting and stuff. I just continue with, if I can smell it, I'm just worried it might be there when you're at work and other people notice it, but don't say anything. So this ends up with her storming out, and the argument continues over text for a bit before we just reside to stopping talking for the rest of the night pretty much. So now it's been a couple of days since then, and she has been pretty distant and hasn't brought it back up. I've only seen her for lunch one day, and she said she has been tired and going home. Very "you're not invited"-esque, so I didn't ask to come over. I'm not sure how else to approach the topic or what I did wrong. I don't feel like an AH because it's a legitimate concern over something that hasn't always been there, or at least that I didn't notice was there. But she's still clearly mad, so AITA for bringing this up? Or is this something that y'all just let ride and hope your partner figures it out? OP is an AH here for making her girlfriend insecure. Although OP is showing concern about her, it was hurtful for her. OP should have handled this situation with more care and empathy. So I would rate OP 2.5 out of 5 on the AH scale, and OP's girlfriend gets a 0. What do the Mac Reddit fans think? Is the OP an AH or not? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like the stories I brought you, just hit the like button, share them as much as you can, and don't forget to subscribe to Mac Reddit for a daily dose. Bye bye, see you tomorrow with some more spicy fries.